been doing crafts with yarn for any amount of time, let's face it, you probably have one or all of these things. Really gorgeous, but sadly single skeins of yarn. Scraps. A deep appreciation for the history of the craft and an admiration for pattern writers who make really beautiful, simple, elegant designs, but a growing frustration because if you see one more shawl or scarf or sock suggested to use up your yarn, you are going to go mad. You just want something outside the box, damn it! But if you're anything like me, you've probably watched one or many of these single skein scrap project ideas videos and thought, those are great, but I need something more chaotic, unhinged, silly. So here are my silly single skein and scrap project ideas to use up your stash. Not a shawl, Sophie scarf, or sock in sight. Don't get me wrong, I love a Sophie scarf, I love a sock. I've never made a shawl, but I've seen some gorgeous ones. And there's nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned pattern roundup. I love those types of videos, but I just found myself going to those videos when I needed some inspiration and thinking, I just need something outside the box, something sillier. So I went looking for patterns and inspiration, and so I thought I would pass them along and share them with you in case that's what you needed to. This video has 10 ideas with patterns and guidance on how I would do them, which will hopefully inspire you with what to do that's a little bit more silly with your leftover yarn and single skeins. I've also created a Ravelry bundle of literally every pattern that I saw that I thought was cool when I was looking and researching this video, so that's linked down below. Without further ado. Picture this. You go to your fruit bowl and you pick one up, but this peach is softer than it should be. So you decide you're going to have an egg instead, and you go to the egg box and you open it, and this egg is softer than it should be. For some reason, the idea of knitting or crocheting food and putting it where the food should go is just peak comedy to me. But if that's not your kind of thing, you should still use your scraps and skeins to make food items. Here's why. Firstly, if you know someone who is obsessed with a particular kind of food, amazing gift. Secondly, really cute decor for around the house. Thirdly, it's fun. It's just fun. I think it's silly and fun. Here are some patterns that I found. There are literally hundreds of different types of food patterns on Ravelry. I think literally anything that you wanted to make, there will be a pattern there. I searched for many different things. One pattern writer that shines, probably my new favourite pattern writer, full stop, and this is Tiny Nonsense. All of these patterns, all of their patterns have such fun concepts to them. They're all silly, they're all fun, and the other day they posted on Instagram, I think, that they'd knitted an egg, and I just saw it and I was like, yes, I love it. Also, I think it would make a really cute beret. Like, looking at it, if it was a beret, it would look so cute. Not my style, but I need to find someone who would wear that so I can make it. My favourite of the food ones by Tiny Nonsense are preserves, which, I mean, everyone's obsessed with strawberries at the moment. Why not make some strawberries? You could even put these on little charms for little bag charms, or just have them around your home, attach them to a cardigan, do what you like with them. But if you've got some red yarn lying around, make some little strawberries. Then I also really love peached. These would look so good in a fruit bowl on a side as like a little ornament. And then also hatched, which, yeah, the egg idea, I just think it would be so funny to have a carton of knitted eggs just where your actual carton of eggs should go. The possibilities are endless. Also, in my search for food items that you could knit, I found mini loaves and fishes, which is such a cute little pattern and is a great segue into the next idea / category. Something I feel like knitting we don't do enough of, but crochet, they're all over it, and that is animals. And that is the next idea. Azan is here to demonstrate what an animal looks like. I'm sure I'm disturbing him, so I will go quickly. I am keeping my voice down so I don't disturb him too much, because he will just leave, and I like having him here. Isn't he so cute? He doesn't like the light, and it's not my light, it is the light from outside. Anyway, if you have never seen a Claire Garland pattern, then you are missing out. These are animal patterns. She has made a Beatrice Potter knitting book, which I own. You can make them in whatever yarn you like, because actually you don't really need to make gauge, because they can be whatever size they are, as long as your row and stitch gauge is not too crazily off, you're fine. Some of my favourites are Jemima Puddle Duck, Frog and Toad. I've actually made Toad and I used some leftover scrap yarn for him. He sits on my piano, so if you've seen probably any of my videos, you've probably seen him. And then also she has a Triceratops pattern, so I think that's amazing. I do really want to make one day, but I think the next one I'm going to make is a gift for my brother, and then after that I'm going to make Jemima Puddle Duck to be friends with Elizabeth, my emotional support chicken. Speaking of the emotional support chicken, also a great leftover scraps project. This is also one that you could probably make with any size yarn. I think the pattern's worsted weight, but you can make this chicken any size. If you make it with a thinner yarn and thinner needles, then it's just going to be a smaller chicken. If you make it with bigger yarn and bigger needles, it will just be a really quite big chicken. Actually, worsted weight is the size that it uses, and she's a decent size. Actually, I would love to see like a really bulky, like the thickest yarn you could get, and then you could make like a massive emotional support chicken. Sometimes you need that much emotional support, you know. If you've not heard of this pattern before, it is a really cute little chicken pattern by Annette Corsino. You can use multiple colours or just one. I made mine with leftover yarn from a jumper I made. Could not tell you 100% if you could do this in one 100-gram skein, but I think if you wanted to, you could. You might need to supplement a little bit of other yarn. There are also some other chicken patterns that I found if the emotional support chicken is too big or too complex. There's Which Came First, which has both chickens and eggs by Defray, and then for just a really simple project, there's the chicken square. You just make a square and make a chicken out of it. You could do many squares until you run out of your yarn and have many chickens. Who doesn't want a whole flock of chickens? Then one that I've actually made recently with leftover yarn from a project is the Ribka pouch. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but these are really cute little fish pouches. I made one for my granddad for his birthday, and it was really nice. It was really simple. It knit up really quickly. I definitely want to make more, make really good gifts, and they're little fishies. One that I think Aslan might like, although probably for the wrong reasons, is a pattern called Rats! Exclamation mark. I love this, got an exclamation mark. Rats! That's it in terms of animal patterns that I'm going to mention in this video. There are a lot more on my Ravelry bundle, so go look there if this is something that you want to make. If you're a fan of writing or receiving letters, or just stationery in general, this one is for you. Tiny Nonsense has an envelope pattern and I love it. The ideas are endless in my head, but you could use this instead of a regular envelope for cards. It's reusable, that's fun. You could exchange notes in it with a friend or family member. You could use it as reusable wrapping, but it looks like an envelope for little gifts. It would be a fun piece of artwork. You can make a giant one as like a blanket or that you could get into. You could make one that is A4 size as like a organizational thing. There's so many things that you could do with this, but I just thought it was so fun and perfect for using up any yarn you have, because you could make any size. Envelopes come in all shapes and sizes. Do you have a wall that's in need of some decoration? I would have filmed in front of a blank wall, but that's not very interesting, which is why you should make some wall hangings artwork with your yarn. Do you have a really beautiful skein that you just want to show off, like hand dyed or variegated, or just a really nice yarn that you think, I just want to display this in a museum? Well, pick a stitch and make a wall hanging. Get a little rod or something, or literally you don't even have to. You could just straight up stick it on your wall, any method you like. You could even frame it. Get a frame, with the glass, without the glass. If you pick a really interesting stitch, you could have it be a tactile piece of art. If you're using scrap yarns, this could even be a fun opportunity to pick a little chaotic phrase and do some colour work. Filet crochet is pretty popular, so you could do a fun little filet crochet phrase and hang that up somewhere. I think it would be really fun to do one where you hang it on a window or something, where depending on the lighting outside, it's visible or not visible, like readable or not readable. If you've seen filet crochet, you'll understand that where the empty space is what the pattern is, and so sometimes if you put it on a white background and it's white, you won't be able to see what the pattern is. I don't know if this would work, but I think it's a really fun idea, and so let me know if you try that out. But otherwise, you could just go on Stitch Fiddle. If you've not used Stitch Fiddle before, by the way, it's amazing. I've only ever used the free version. I think there's a paid version, but I've never had to use it. And you can essentially turn any photo or do any design in a chart that you want to, and it's really easy to use. You could use that to do colour work, patterns of your own, if you wanted to do a custom phrase. If you're not so confident as that, there are definitely patterns out there of different phrases. Just go searching for whatever you feel like, and I'm sure someone's done a tutorial or something in the craft of your choice. And then you'll have a lovely piece of artwork to hang up around your home, put it on a wall, frame it, put it on your fridge. If you want, you could do whatever you like with it. It's your yarn, I hope. This is Bernard. Say hi, Bernard. And Colonel Guac. They don't say much. I would encourage you to look around your house and think to yourself, is there anything here that could be accessorized? Now, I'm not just talking Bernard, although I think he would look really cute in a pair of shorts. And Colonel Guac already has a little hat, which is covering his male pattern baldness, which he's insecure about. Although I do tell him it's nothing to be ashamed of. He's just more comfortable with the hat on. Anyway, I'm off track. Look around your house. Does anything need some extra spice, extra decoration? Is there a plant pot that you can make a cover for? Is there a bear? You can make a pair of shorts. Is there a frog? You can make a jumper. These are great little ways to add some whimsy to your home and also use up some of that yarn. I know Claire Garland has a frog jumper pattern, but I think this is one that you're probably going to have to figure out on your own, I'm afraid, because depending on the object, depends on what shape and size it's going to be. I'm sure there are tutorials on YouTube or patterns that you can base things off, so go looking for those, but have fun. And something like a plant pot is really easy. If you just knit a rectangle or a square or however big you need it to be and then sew it up, easy peasy. Give it a little bit of negative ease and I'm sure it will stretch and fit perfectly. Speaking of plant pots, do you grow herbs in your garden or try to? Do the snails or slugs eat them? Is this all that remains? Well, I recently discovered a piece of information that might be very interesting to you. If any of the yarn in your stash is 100% wool, the more rustic, the better. You could make a little pot cozy, and I did this, and genuinely I'm shocked by how effective it's been. This is my basil. These were the same plant. I got one from the shop that I split up into a couple of pots, and as you can see, the one with the yarn on survived much better. Much better. I do need to test this a bit more, but if that's the kind of yarn you have and you don't mind it being outside and wet, give it a go. If you like the idea of an emotional support knit, but a chicken doesn't quite feel right to you, you just need something that you can let your emotions out on, maybe, then I found the pattern for you. Brick. Enough said. Welcome to my bookshelves. This is my Tolkien bookshelf. It's just Lord of the Rings and Tolkien related books. It's nothing to do with the video, I just wanted to show you. But let me show you my Van Gogh book. Look at this big old book. Psych, it's not a real book. I love this thing. I have nothing stored in it at the moment, so if you have any ideas for things I could store in it, nothing seems apt enough for actually putting in a book. I want it to be fun. But the reason I'm showing you this is because it is the next idea. Knitted books. There is, in fact, believe it or not, a pattern for this. It's tiny nonsense again. Amazing. And I just love this idea. Let me put this down. By the way, you should know that this is not the only fake book on this bookshelf, but I will not tell you what the other one is. Or other ones. Anyway, I'm off track again. Tiny Nonsense has a book knitting pattern which goes around specific tins and then also has guidance for how to make your own one. And that would be such a fun thing to knit. Trick your family and friends and people you live with. Like, look at these beautiful books on my bookshelf. I think maybe knitted ones, it might be slightly obvious, but I love this concept. I have always loved this concept of books that are not really books. Anything that's not really what it looks like, to be honest, sparks joy in me. So why not knit a book? You could also, if you're not so sold on the idea of knitting a fake book, knit covers for existing books. We all know that there are some books that we have and we love, that we've read, but on the bookshelf, they're kind of ugly. Knit them a new cover. No one's stopping you from doing that. You do not have to keep the book cover. You can 100% judge the book cover, but not the book. Or do a cover for some notebooks. You could even make a fake book and then hide a real book with a knitted cover inside. Or make a bunch of knitted covers for all your books and then knit a book and no one will know that one of them is fake. That's how you hide. That's how you do it. That's how you do it, people. I love it. Does the inner child in you really love balloons, but the anxious adult in you can't deal with the fact that they might pop and make a loud noise? Then you're not alone. I'm like that. I'm also the anxious adult who gets emotionally attached to balloons and then they deflate and I get sad. So why not make balloons? This was one I was shocked was not on Ravelry. I looked, okay, but I have some ideas for how you could knit or crochet or just make balloons with yarn. So you could have those and hang them up in a little garland. Obviously they're not going to float, but how often do you have floating balloons anyway? And to be honest, the balloons on the floor are the ones likely to pop from people stepping on them, not the ones that are floating on the ceiling anyway. The first idea I had was essentially follow a hat pattern until you get to the widest point and then reverse it, but starts adding extra rows in towards the end when you get to the small bit. And then when you've got only a couple of stitches, do that for a while, increase a little bit, and then cast on maybe with like a little I-cord edge, could do make the little fake rim. And if you do it long enough, you could tie it up like a balloon. I haven't got any ideas yet for how you could stuff them, but also make them easily storable, because obviously an inflated balloon takes up way more storage space than a deflated balloon. But I mean, if you're really committed to it, you could have the stuffing removable and that, or you could get like a beach ball and blow that up inside, which obviously still could pop, but it's just less poppable. If you're not so worried about the storage, something else you could do is create it around a real balloon, depending on how you feel. You might be all right with, you might not, but you could create it around a real balloon and then put PVA glue. And I think I've seen someone do this for like a lampshade on TikTok recently, where they like crocheted around. This would be great. You put the glue on, you wait for the glue to dry, and then you deflate the balloon. And if you want to pop it, you can pop it, but you can also let the air out slowly so you don't have to deal with the popping. Or similarly, if you don't want to figure out how to knit or crochet one with the glue, you could wrap the yarn in like circles around the balloon and keep going. This would be especially cool if you had a pretty hand-dyed skein that you don't like how it looks knitted up, but you want to do something with it that's not just keep it in the skein. And then you can slowly acquire balloons and have parties of your dreams with fun whimsy, but none of the slight on edge feeling that comes with balloons being around, especially when they're on the floor. Fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. On to the next thing. I'm fine. If you ever had a wreck this journal as a kid, this is inspired by that. And bear with me, some of you will be going, what on earth are you asking me to do with my yarn? Bear with me. There is logic behind this one. Imagine you have the perfect sweater. You have poured time, effort, love, money into this sweater. It's gorgeous yarn. It fits you perfectly. It took you years. You don't want anything happening to that sweater, but you have some leftovers. Put some aside for darning and repairs, and then make as many swatches as you can with the leftover yarn. And then write down all of the things that could happen to your sweater and see what would happen to the swatches. And if you can fix what happens to the swatches. So you're prepared in case of emergencies. And if it's a gift knit that you've poured all of this time and effort and love to, you can show them what would happen if they don't follow the care instructions. Put it through the washing machine, put it through the tumble dryer, leave it out in the rain, put an ink stain on, see if you can get the ink stain out, see if the colour bleeds, see what would happen if it got snagged, practice your repairs, set it on fire. Don't set it on fire. I'm not recommending setting anything on fire. Even if you do it outside in a well-ventilated area, as you should, don't set things on fire. That's the practical side of this idea. But also, if you've got a bit of a scientific mind and you just are curious, you could make swatches with any yarn and see how it reacts. See if different fibers react to things differently, if different stitches mean different things are going to stretch or shrink, or all of it differently. Maybe even follow some actual Wreck This Journal style prompts and try and turn your squares into something random. Like, I think some of the Wreck This Journal pages were like, turn this page into a cat. You know, you could take your square and turn it into a chicken. We know it's possible. We'll move on from this idea for anyone feeling slightly stressed by the idea of doing this to their beautiful yarn. Have you considered that you could use your yarn to make more yarn? You probably haven't. You might have done. Consider this, your scraps or your skeins that you just don't know what to do with. You could make a really long I-cord and then use that I-cord to make more I-cord. No, I'm joking. I mean, I'd love to see that done, but you could make baskets or anything really that requires a chunkier or stiffer construction would work really well. So baskets, or that's all I can think of. But how cool would a basket with I-cord be? Or you just make loads of I-cord and you could use it for little bows, accessories, or make a whole project. If you want a bulky yarn, but you want it in the colour that you've got fingering weight in, why not knit up some I-cord? It might take some time, but patience and perseverance, and you will have a beautiful garment, knitted twice, like biscuits, baked twice, knitted twice. So that's some inspiration for you for what to do with your single skeins and scraps and yarn that you've got lying around. I hope something on this list inspired you and gave you a thought, or at least inspired you to be sillier. If you have any silly ideas of your own, please drop them in the comments. I would love to hear them. And if you make anything inspired by this video, then please let me know. Message me on Instagram, tag me on Instagram or TikTok. I would love to see these ideas come to life. I plan on making some of them myself, but everyone has their own way of being fun and silly, so I'd love to see that. Happy making, and I'll speak to you soon. You thought we were done? Here are some bonus ones that didn't really fit into any of the 10 things, but I wanted to mention anyway. Firstly, if the single skein you've got is a gift from a family or friend who thought, oh, I'll get you some yarn, why don't you make a blanket or something? And they just gave you one, then why not make a passive-aggressive tiny blanket? Just use the whole skein, give it back to them. You know, obviously if it's a really lovely skein and it's pretty, that you don't want to do that. But if it's just a single ball of something boring, which it has been known to happen, there's a maybe a little passive-aggressive idea for you. And then some pattern honorable mentions that are in the bundle, but I wanted to mention in the video anyway. The Braided Ball by Marlene Hartog, sorry, I had to check the name. This would be so cool with scraps, and you could make it any size. I think it would look so cool as a doorstop, or you could go giant and make like a poof. You know, it would be so fun. And then, of course, my new favorite designer, Tiny Nonsense, literally any of their designs, any of them. They're all fun, they're all silly, and they're all small enough, really, from what I've seen, to make from scraps and single skeins. And then lastly, hot take, I don't get this one, but I saw the pattern and I thought I have to mention this because someone out there might be like, yes, this is the thing I need. But a yarn cake cozy, just a little like round thing to go around your yarn. Yarn on yarn. If that's what you need in your life, then I am fully supportive of that. And that is actually the end of the video. Bye! I might just go to sleep now, it's quite comfortable here. There's more! I've started now.